The following segments are pre-recorded and sponsored by Longworth Productions.
Meet the candidates on Triad today. Hello everyone, I'm Jim Longworth and welcome to a special voter education edition of Triad Today. Over the next half hour, you'll hear from candidates for governor and state superintendent of public instruction. Before we do that though, here are a few words from Todd Hall, President and CEO of Triad Federal Credit Union, who's helping to make this show possible.
At Triad Federal Credit Union, we understand the importance of the ballot box in shaping our future. The institutions led by state and local leaders form the foundation of our society. Giving candidates for office a platform to engage with voters on the issues that matter most in our communities is essential to the health of our democracy. We support Triad Today's commitment to voter education because of its importance in the political process. I'm Todd Hall, President and CEO of Triad, and we hope you enjoy this special presentation.
Thanks, Todd. We'll meet the candidates right after this.
Banking is like going for a swim. You don't need all the complicated stuff, but you don't want to feel exposed either. At Triad, we give you just what you need, so you can manage your money on the go or stop by a branch whenever you need to. It's all about having options, while also keeping life simple, with low rates, free financial advice, and friendly faces. So check out Triad. We have just what you need.
North Carolina's economy is growing, bringing new businesses and opportunities. The need for electricity is growing too. At Duke Energy, we're meeting the challenge, providing even more electricity that's cleaner, reliable, and that stays affordable. We're getting out of coal and reinvesting in our communities with a diverse, balanced mix of energy sources and making targeted upgrades to the grid so that North Carolina can thrive in a smarter energy future.
The world's brightest are Fulbrights, Goldwaters, McNairs, and Spartans. Prestigious doesn't have to be expensive.
And we know you will make a difference wherever you go.
UNCG. Find your way here.
As most of you know, Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson has been embroiled in controversy over the last few weeks based on a CNN report that alleged he had posted some lewd comments on an adult website. That is now in litigation. The reason I'm mentioning this is because the interview you're about to see was taped just before that controversy started brewing. And so here's our conversation with Mark Robinson. Back now on our voter education special, brought to you in part by the good folks at Triad. In this first segment, we're going to talk to a candidate for governor. And you might say, well, why are you only going to talk to one candidate? We have reached out, I personally, almost 12 times to Attorney General Josh Stein. No calls returned. I can't force somebody to be on the show. So we do have a candidate who agreed to come on the show. And he's with us right now. Our own Lieutenant Governor, Mark Robinson, is with us. Good to see you, sir.
Very good to be here.
A lot of politicians grew up with a silver spoon in their mouth, but you didn't. What's your story?
Well, I grew up in Greensboro on the wrong side of the tracks, as they say, on the east side of Greensboro. Very poor family, by American standards, certainly not by world standards. I always like to make that distinction. Number 9 of 10 children, grew up in a house where 5 of my older brothers and sisters were already grown and gone. I grew up with 5 in my house, immediately in my house. And, we saw some pretty difficult times. My father was much older than my mother. My father was a drinker, and when he would drink, he was very violent towards my mother, and so we witnessed a lot of domestic violence. But my mother, she hung in there. My father died when I was 12 years old, and my mother took over. And when I tell you she did a great job, she did a fantastic job. My mother could have easily just lived off welfare for the rest of her life, but my mother chose to go to work. She went to work as a custodian over at North Carolina A&T State University, and she took darn good care of us. She set a standard in our life that showed us it's up to you to make what you can out of your life, and she did a darn good job of raising us.
Lieutenant Governor, I was thinking that everybody sort of has a different reason for getting into politics.
Sure.
And you sort of rose real quickly after making some speeches in front of, I think it was Greensboro City Council
Yes.
on the Second Amendment and some other
Yes.
things. So very quickly, what made you want to run for Lieutenant Governor, the race which you won handily? What made you want to get into politics?
Well, coming up, with my family, we never talked about politics. Our family, what we always talked about was what was right, what was wrong, what was fair, what was unfair, and then ultimately what God said about it. And those kind of values that we grew up with. And so I kind of discovered that I was a conservative. It's not something I became. I discovered I was a conservative. And when I became politically aware and started to kind of get involved with the Republican Party, first on a personal level, and then kind of backed off a little and was going to school, doing some other things. And then I did a lot of social media politicking. That was the advent of social media. And then I gave the speech at the city council that went viral, and everybody was talking about money. And I was like, no, I don't believe that's the reason why God allowed me to have that platform. You know, he put me there, I believe, to make change. And so my wife and I sat down and talked about me running for office, and she came up with the wild idea to run for lieutenant governor, and here we are.
What are some problems that the state faces, and how do you want to fix them?
Well, I can tell you this. I think the major problem that this state faces is the inequities we see in our economies across the state. Our state is very fragmented with its economy. You go to the middle part of the state, Charlotte, Greensboro, Winston, Raleigh, you see economic opportunities abound.
Right.
But when you go to the eastern part of the state, the western part of the state, I'm not going to say you see diminished opportunities. You see opportunities not taken advantage of. And one of the reasons we haven't been able to take advantage of those things is we just haven't had the financial wherewithal really to make those substantive investments. The last 14 years, though, under Republican leadership in the House and Senate, we've seen that growth here in the state now. And now it's time, I believe, for us to start building an economy that'll span from Murphy to Manteo, and I think we can do it.
Yeah, because a lot of the counties, I've heard, executives from some of the counties complain, hey, we're going on a short trip. We don't get all the economic development projects and leads and things. And so I think what you're talking about is right on. Before we lose time, I think I was reading a statement from you about a public safety plan. Is that right? What?
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer that some of the things have gone on at the federal level. And I'm not big on playing the blame game, but like they say, it is what it is. Our border has been wide open for 4 years. And some great people have come into our country from foreign countries, and maybe they have not done it right. But there's also been some folks that are pretty bad that have come across our border, and they're doing some pretty bad things. I'm a big believer that this state needs to set up some type of security council based kind of like on the National Security Council.
Right.
We bring together sheriffs and police chiefs and state troopers and SBI for the purposes of identifying folks who are here to plot bad things, to do bad things, drug trafficking, human trafficking, those folks involved in gangs and the like. And we need to identify those folks and stop them before they start. Being proactive in law enforcement is the key. Giving law enforcement the tools they need and backup they need to be proactive, so they just are not showing up on the scene, cleaning up the crime. They can actually go out and pursue the criminals and stop them before they can ply their wares.
Mr. Robinson, why do you want to be governor?
Well, I tell everybody this. I don't want to be the governor. I never set out to be the governor. I never set out to be the lieutenant governor. What I want to be is a servant to the people. This state has been very good to me, and people in this state have been very good to me. I can think all the way from when I was a child up to a young man. The state's been good to me, and now it's time for me to have an opportunity to pay it back. And I believe the way that I can pay it back is by going into public service as the lieutenant governor and then the governor to build that economy that spans from Murphy to Manteo, to give parents the opportunity to be able to control their children's educational destiny.
Up on screen, Mark Robinson for NC. That's the initials, nc.com. I hope you'll check that out and you can read all about his positions. And Lieutenant Governor, I appreciate you taking time to be with us.
Thank you.
It means a lot for the
Yes,
folks
sir.
at home to be able to hear from the candidates.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
We'll be right back after this.
Baby, watch me fly. Baby, watch me soar. Baby, watch me fly. I will open up the sky.
Fly local, fly easy,
Fly PTI.
Banking is like going for a swim. You don't need all the complicated stuff, but you don't want to feel exposed either. At Truliant, we give you just what you need, so you can manage your money on the go or stop by a branch whenever you need to. It's all about having options, while also keeping life simple with low rates, free financial advice, and friendly faces. So check out Truliant. We have just what you need.
Back now on this special voter education edition of Triad today, and as we cover the race for State Superintendent of Public Instruction, the Democratic candidate is someone you may know from this area because of his prior experience. We'll get into that in just a second. Mo Green is here, and we welcome you to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
For folks that maybe haven't seen this show before or don't know you personally, just remind people, where were you born? Where'd you grow up?
So I was born in New York, grew up in Georgia, but moved to North Carolina when I attended college and have basically been in the state of North Carolina since then.
Did you go to, when you were a little boy, did you go to public school, private school, what?
So I did both. I went to private school when I lived in New York, and then I went to public school when we moved to Georgia.
Okay. Now in Georgia, and I'm thinking maybe in your elementary school years or maybe even junior high, who was your favorite teacher or a teacher that was memorable that you still think about?
Yeah, so the teacher that I certainly would lift up is actually someone from high school, and her name was Trudy Norris, and she was a remarkable teacher for me. She was our English teacher, but she also was our yearbook advisor.
Okay.
And so I was on the yearbook staff and ultimately was editor my senior year, so I got to spend a lot of time with Miss Norris.
So, I mean, so she was influential in your life then?
Oh, no question about that.
Did it have anything to do? I don't want to read too much into this, but I'm just, a teacher can make a big difference, I would think, in terms of a career path. Did she or other teachers have an impact on the path you took?
You know, so what she always sort of would lift up is I could do anything.
Right.
And so I don't know that she was, you know, I don't think she foresaw that I would go into, for example, public education administration, for example. I knew early on that I wanted to be a lawyer.
Really?
And so, oh yes, sir. And so, and so she was one of those that would say, you know, would encourage, that would be great. But I think if I had said something else, she'd have been very encouraging about that as well.
Yeah. Now, what about the fact that you chose a career path, and for people maybe that are seeing this for the first time, let's remind them of the kind of experience you've had administratively in the education field.
Great. So I served as superintendent of Guilford County Schools for 7.5 years. Which would be the third largest district in the state. Prior to that, I was the deputy superintendent and chief operating officer, and also prior to that, the general counsel or the top lawyer, if you will, for Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools.
Right.
And those jobs I combined were 7.5 years as well.
And then you left after Guilford and ran a successful foundation for a while.
Yes, sir. Was blessed to be the executive director for the Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation.
How involved should parents be in the curriculum of their kids?
So I certainly think that parents should have a voice in what the curriculum looks like. Obviously, I do believe that it's important to look to our experts, our educators, if you will, to be the primary voice. They've been trained to develop a curriculum that would be work well for students. Obviously, there are other entities that also need to be involved, including the state superintendent of public instruction, the state board of education as well. But
everybody plays a role.
Everybody plays a role. But I do think that I always tell folks that parents have their own lived experiences and oftentimes might be able to add something to what even the experts might think is the appropriate way to teach.
There's about 27% of lottery funds are being spent on schools. Would you like to see that level increase?
So the thing that we must understand about the lottery, first of all, is yes, there are dollars that go into the education lottery, but there is not a provision in the legislation that says it's to be supplementary. And so you could increase the lottery dollars, but that doesn't necessarily increase the number of overall dollars that are going into public education. And so what I would want to see is an increase in the general appropriations from the General Assembly that go directly into public
and
education.
not rely on the gambling end of it.
Correct.
What about school safety? That's a big issue. What would you do as state superintendent to help improve security and safety of our schools?
Yeah, so there are many, many things one must do based on my experience. There are lots of components to it. I'll lift up maybe 4 things. One, I do think we have to increase the number of mental health professionals that are working with our students. Our students are going through lots of challenging issues, and having those professionals be able to work with them would be beneficial.
Right.
I certainly think that we have to have effective relationships with law enforcement and have them do their role effectively, if you will. I certainly think we have to think about how to help our schools and school systems harden their facilities in ways that maybe not all are able to do at this moment. You know, things like double entries, things like metal detectors.
Yeah.
And then finally, I would suggest that we also have to increase the amount of character development that we are teaching our children so that they know what's appropriate behavior. And how to comport themselves, how to be in relationship with each other, even when they're in disagreement with each other.
School vouchers, very quickly. Even wealthy families can get them. What do you think?
I'm not a fan of that. In fact, I think that's the wrong direction, because it's actually then taking dollars that are desperately needed in our public schools away from our public schools.
Mo, we have about 30 seconds left. Just tell me sort of a summary of why you're running. You've had a very, varied career in various things. You don't have to be a candidate. You chose to be a candidate. Why are you running?
Yes, sir. So certainly concerned about the direction of our public schools, concerned about the funding for our public schools, concerned about the level of respect, and I would argue disrespect, being shown to our educators, and concerned certainly about student achievement, and believe that needs to be lifted. And so I believe my experience, my belief in our public schools puts me in a good position to be one that can lead us to a new place for our public schools.
All right, up on screen, Mo Green for NC.com is the website you can go to learn more about Mr. Green's positions. Good to see you again.
Wonderful to see you as well. Thanks as always.
We'll be right back.
North Carolina's economy is growing, bringing new businesses and opportunities. The need for electricity is growing too. At Duke Energy, we're meeting the challenge, providing even more electricity that's cleaner, reliable, and that stays affordable. We're getting out of coal and reinvesting in our communities with a diverse, balanced mix of energy sources, and making targeted upgrades to the grid so that North Carolina can thrive in a smarter energy future.
Every cookie sold in the Girl Scout Cookie Program helps girls learn lifelong lessons in people skills, decision making, money management, goal setting, and business ethics. From one generation to the next. It's amazing how much you can learn from a cookie. The Girl Scout Cookie Program. Think outside the box.
Spartans are the teachers, artists, nurses, scientists, and leaders who build our communities.
Back now on this special voter education edition of Triad today, and as we cover the race for State Superintendent of Public Instruction, our special guest now is a Republican for that candidacy, Michelle Morrow. We welcome you to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Where were you born and grew up?
I was born in Nashua, New Hampshire. I actually grew up in upstate New York.
A Yankee.
Yes, but I actually went to high school. My parents moved to Charlotte when I was in high school, and so I graduated high school at South Meck and went to UNC Chapel Hill. It's where I got my nursing degree.
South Meck, and so you're a public school girl.
Yes, sir.
And a nurse.
Yes, sir.
I didn't realize that.
Yes.
Yeah. Why did you think about wanting to be a nurse?
You know, my grandmother was a nurse, and I was the only granddaughter on that side of the family, so I was pretty close with my grandmother.
Wow.
And I was always into science and math, and so it seemed like the thing to do.
Here you are running for office that's going to oversee all of our public schools. I'm just sort of curious, since you and I haven't met, who was your favorite or favorite public school teacher that you had as a little girl?
Probably Miss Lee. She was my Latin teacher actually at South Meck. Yeah, and to make Latin fun is quite an accomplishment. So yeah, that would probably be my favorite.
Okay. Well, now let's talk about. Let folks know. Do you have any teaching or education experience or anything? Because you're a nurse is a very important position. What about education? Any experience you want to mention there?
Yeah, you know, I have 5 children, and they've been in public, private, and homeschooled.
Okay.
And 2 of my kids had some learning differences, and so they were in the public school, and we kind of went through the IEP 504 process.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up homeschooling my kids for about 15 years.
Is that hard to do?
Off and on. Yeah, it is. It's a sacrifice, but you know what? I wouldn't change it for the world. I felt like I redeemed my own education, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah, because you know, in order to be able to teach, you have to really know your subject matter.
Yeah.
But in addition, I also taught in micro schools. So I taught high schoolers biology, chemistry, civics, and government, as well as Spanish for 10 years in Cary, North Carolina. Yes.
How do you keep all that in your head? I wouldn't be able to do all that. I would fail math and all these other things. How involved let's say not just homeschooling, but this is a regular situation where parents send their kids off to school. How involved should parents be in general in helping to shape curriculum, or should they just be hands off and let the schools do what they want to do?
Well, you know, I don't think we should put it on the parents to be choosing the curriculum. I think that is definitely the job of the DPI. I will say that for 15 years, I had to go through curriculums and choose them, not only what I was going to teach, but also what was going to be the best fit for my children and their learning styles. But I'll say this, it is absolutely paramount that parents be invested in their schools and in their children's education. I really believe that children are only going to reach their full potential when parents and teachers are working as a team to help that student.
Does that mean going to PTA meetings, helping kids with homework? I mean, what all does that involve?
Well, I think it really, we have some bridges to be built back with trust. I think what needs to happen is our schools need to be a place of order and discipline and respect. I want to bring a code of conduct back to every public school system in North Carolina so that parents, as well as teachers and students, understand what is expected of them in terms of personal conduct as well as academic performance.
Yeah, I think that's great because, you know, you can't teach if you've got disruptions going on, right?
That's right. Absolutely. I think the number one job of any administrator needs to be to create this environment of collaboration and respect and actually excitement. Most young kids want to learn, they want to please, and they're filled with potential. And it's our job to tap into that.
I've talked to local, state, and federal officials until I'm blue in the face about making schools safe and why don't we get metal detectors at every entrance, and I always get the same answer, there's not enough money.
Yeah.
What do we do to make schools safer?
Well, we absolutely need at least 2 student resource officers in every school. We need to make it be a priority. The metal detectors, I think we need videos in our classrooms as well. Over the last year, we've seen a lot of cases of violence in the classroom. Specifically, most people might not realize this, there were over almost 1,500 teachers assaulted on the job last year. And then we wonder why we have a teacher shortage. We wonder why, that the children are not learning to their full potential. And that has to be, if we cannot keep our women and our children safe, then something is desperately wrong.
So foreign to me. I'm 150 years old. So back when I was in school, you never thought. I mean, we cut up and stuff, but you never thought about these kind of things happening. Let me, since I mentioned dollar figures and paying for school safety and security issues, let me go to money thing here. I read the other day that only 27% of the lottery funds are going to schools. I don't want to rag on the lottery people and are they doing too much advertising or not enough, but basically if it's 27%, would you like to see that amount increase?
Absolutely, and really one of the ground rules of my administration is going to be that we are going to do an audit, and it has to happen at the DPI, an external audit, as well as with our 115 districts. I believe that the money is there. I think it is being misappropriated. I think there's a ton of waste in the bureaucratic bloat. We have more directors than we need that money is never filtering down into the actual classrooms. And let me just say, when you talk about the lottery, in Wake County, where we're from, there were more than 5 schools that were closed multiple days at the beginning of school because their HVAC system was not working. That lottery money is supposed to be used for the infrastructure of our schools.
For renovation.
There's no excuse for starting school. We know it's going to be 95 degrees. What did we do during the summer months that we didn't get our schools up and running and ready to receive our students and staff?
I want to give you about 45, 50 seconds just to sum up and tell me and the audience, why are you running?
I'm running because I believe that our children are our future, and the quality of our education system determines the quality of the economy here in North Carolina. We have got to raise the bar of expectation in scholastics as well as conduct. We need to broaden opportunities for our students so that when they walk off that graduation stage, they are prepared for success as adults. And I want to join with businesses. I want to expand the trade and technical training that we have in high school, because I believe that we can make our schools the best in the nation and an example for everybody else to follow.
That's just great. Now, up on the screen, and correct me if I get this wrong, but you can go to Morrow4NC. Now, that's the number 4, Morrow4NC.com, where you can learn all about Michelle. Thanks so much for spending time with us.
No, thank you for the opportunity.
All right. We'll be right back after this. Hi, I'm Jim Longworth, reminding you to catch my column Longworth at Large and Yes Weekly every week. It's available throughout the Triad, or you can go online, yesweekly.com.
The world's brightest are Fulbrights, Goldwaters, McNairs, and Spartans. Prestigious doesn't have to be expensive. UNCG. Find your way here.
Baby, watch me fly. Baby, watch me soar. Baby, watch me fly. I will open up the sky.
Fly local, fly easy, fly PTI.
Hi, I'm Jim Longworth, reminding you that Triad Today is now streaming on WFMY Plus, available free on Roku and Amazon Fire TV. Well, that's it for this special voter education edition of Triad Today. We want to thank the candidates, Mark Robinson, Michelle Morrow, and Mo Green for participating, and especially our thanks to Todd Hall, Atticus Simpson, and their team at Triad Federal Credit Union. Their website's on screen. Take a look at it, visit them. We appreciate their help, and we appreciate you watching. Now, mainly, it's only a few days before Election Day, and if you haven't already early voted or sent in an absentee ballot, please remember to vote on November 5th. For all of us here at Triad Today, I'm Jim Longworth. We'll see you next week.